All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons in Leadership, the podcast where we unpack the psychology, the strategy, and the scars behind real leaders, the kind that earns trusts, drive results, and stands the test of time. I'm your host, Garrath Robinson, combat veteran, go-to-market operator, and leadership junkie. And every week, we're diving into conversations that challenge, sharpen, and rewire how you lead when the pressure in life is real. Today, we have with us Jenna Moser, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. We had a great conversation a couple weeks ago, but first, I want to give you the floor to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and your business. Jenna, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I am a fractional CFO or a fractional COO and strategic data partner. And what I do is I help service providers who are just drowning in chaos find out what is working, what's not working in their business so that they're able to start making business decisions and move from chaos to clarity. And so I started this journey back in 2021. So almost 5 years, not quite, but I got started when the global pandemic happened and
Yeah.
I was in the corporate world doing auditing. I'm the CPA, and we were traveling 2 weeks every month, like both internationally and domestically. We had just had our first daughter, and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot be in another
Yeah.
country right now, let alone leave my newborn for 2 weeks. So I was like, I need to find something different. And that is when I started looking for something in the online space, something I could do on my own. And so that is when I started my business and have just been growing ever since.
Nice. I know last time we talked, you said you were in the accounting and auditing space. So, what about being in that career field? you know, did you carry over into your business? Did you have a moment where you're like, hey, I can do this for myself. I can take what I'm doing, the parts of what I'm doing that I love to do for my clients and build a business around that? Like, what was that? How did you decide on this is what I'm going to do with my business?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I still keep up with my CPA. So I still have my license and still try and stay relevant in that space. But when I first started my business, like I honestly was just chasing like freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
I wanted control of my time and energy, but like honestly, like it didn't really take off until I started following my passion, which was what like helping other people find the same essentially. Like when I was doing auditing work, like we were always trying to figure out like what is the data telling us? Like what is the story here? And trying to help them make better decisions for their business. And so I figured like I want to do this for others. And so that's when I started to help them like push through that chaos and then help them find the clarity on the other side.
Yeah.
And so once I figured out a way to like do that in my own way, I felt like things really started to take off. Like I just really wanted people to like stop guessing and start making confident moves. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's a fun part of it. That's what I find I enjoy most, is when you can provide a client or whoever with kind of that light bulb moment of, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. I didn't think about it that way. That's really what gives me the joy in what I do. And, you talk about freedom and flexibility. And, that was a big driver for me as well is, I kind of got tired of being like a ride along passenger in my career of, you know, you're in all these top-down management structures and, your ideas aren't taken, your ideas aren't really given the floor that they need to be given, you're not given the reins to kind of test and iterate. And that's where, that professional growth really happens. And, I kind of hit a similar point myself during COVID. I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, I didn't have the time to coach baseball like I like coaching and just felt like I had gotten so stressed out in my career of like I'm at home and I don't feel like I'm at home because I just want to like go hide and like
Right.
just decompress for 3 hours. And so being able to wake up and do what you love is a huge boon to just like how you experience life and how you meet the day.
For sure.
Did you have like, what was your process like? I know for me, like when I made the decision to quit my job and start this business, that I took 60 days off. I literally was just like a free floater for 60 days of just, I'm going to wake up and like what's important in my life is like being able to get to the gym early in the morning and set the tone for the day. So I just wanted to do that for like 60 days. Just like take the pressure off, just enjoy the things in life that I enjoy and kind of allow that like what's the next step beyond here to come to me? What was that process like for you? Because I know that's a lot of people quit their job and they feel like they have to have that thing like the next week, but there's actually a process
Yeah,
that kind of plays out, you know?
for sure. Yeah. Honestly, like, I don't know if like you believe this, but like I would get the Sunday scaries.
But yeah,
People
yeah,
call them like all kinds of things. Like I would literally dread Sundays because I knew like Monday was coming and I was just like, this cannot keep going. And like I can honestly say, like, over the past 4 years, I have not dreaded a Sunday or a Monday. Like I'm
yeah,
finally like don't have that anxiety and it has been total game changer. Like I can finally enjoy Sunday and to
yeah.
me that's like the greatest feeling.
No, it really is.
But I would say like when I first started, I didn't have like a 60-day
Yeah,
period like you did. Honestly, I had to convince my husband, which I feel like most people can relate to this. Like, I had to convince my partner that, like, what I'm about to do is scary, but like, I can make it work. Like, I had to give him an 18-month business plan of like, this is what I'm proposing. Like, this is how I'm going to make it work. Because, like, you're leaving that corporate comfort, like, blanket, and
yeah,
you're now starting your own business where, like, income is not guaranteed.
yeah,
You no longer have benefits. Like, it's scary to leave something that is guaranteed and now like you're walking into the unknown essentially. And so I did both for a while and that was horrible. I was basically working like 80 hours a week. So I would do my 9 to 5 and then I would at night and on the weekends is when I would do my business, like, which luckily I had a lot of Pacific time clients, like people on the West Coast. And so it worked to my benefit because like their day was still going on while mine was finishing. So that was nice. And then I could, get up early and do some work before they even woke up.
yeah,
So that worked to my benefit well. But it wasn't until I started making more than my corporate job. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
yeah,
So I was able to leave my corporate job and I scaled my business to 6 figures in the first year. And that was like the first, like, wow, like I can do this.
yeah.
And so we've been going ever since. But yeah, best decision ever, but definitely the most scary.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a journey. That was kind of the conversation we had of like, hey, listen, like this is going to take 2 years to build to really get something out of to like where we can kind of, go back on those vacations that we want to go on, not worry about money. And, it's interesting because the first 18 months building this has been a grind. We haven't even done 6 figures yet, right? But it's like the last like month and a half, the floodgates have just, I feel like it's just like you're in it so long at some point, like all of a sudden, all these potential clients start coming out of nowhere. And, for us in the last couple weeks, we've signed 4 clients. We're getting ready to launch with a 5th client, which is really exciting. And that's more clients than we've had all year. But part
It's
of it
awesome.
was kind of like I had to learn how to sell. That was part of it is like I'm really good on the relationship side. I wasn't so great at the ask. I wasn't so great at selling and so much as sell. And I feel like this is where so many business owners struggle a little bit is just that like, I'd be on calls, people would talk about their problems or they would mention things that they're having challenges with, but I didn't really know just to follow up with like, hey, I heard you mention this on a call. I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you I could help you with that, right? Just those little things and learning how to build that into your repertoire. But I think the big driver for us is just being really all in on relationships. And I know we hear so much about relationships and sales and how important that is, but
Hmm.
it really does pay off tenfold when you invest in the right people and the right relationships. And even doing free work for some people. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is like incredible. It's really helped us alleviate this business pain or, doing like even a pipe drive build out or a pipeline build out for a client where it was a freaking mess. and then they get everything kind of churning and they're like, oh my God, like our sales are so much easier now because we had this pipeline issue fixed. And just kind of being patient and letting those relationships ferment and like letting, and like when I say building relationships, like when we're following up with people, it's not like a salesy follow up. It's just like, hey man, how you guys doing? Like, are your kid, like I was just
Yeah.
talking to a prospect of ours from probably 6 months ago who's turned into a great friend actually. And, he runs a $1 billion company. And like last weekend, we're just talking about our kids' sports game, like taking pictures. And like we had this big, huge, chaotic thing at our baseball game and stuff. Like I'm talking about like those real deep, meaningful relationships. How has that played out in your business as far as the relationship side goes? And like even talk a little bit about like, was sales like something in the business that came a little more natural to you, or was sales something that you had to work at and really kind of figure out, how do I make this work for me? Because I think some of the resistance with sales is I love what I do, but I don't want to be that pushy, like salesy type of person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is something I definitely still struggle with. I mean, I feel like you could always improve on this, but I feel like people are constantly like being sold to. And when you say like you're in
That's all
sales
right.
or
We're from Indiana.
like have like a bad taste in their mouth, right? Like, because they're used to just constantly
Yeah.
being pitched at. And it wasn't until like I started, just trying to like provide value or serve them first, then I didn't really feel like the pressure to constantly trying to like pitch myself. Like, it's literally just genuinely caring about them and their business, like as a person. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like we have lost so much of that. And like, they're a human at the end of the day. Like, yes, they have a business. I have a business. Like, I'm trying to like, get it to grow. But like at the end of the day, like they're a real person. And like just trying to connect with them first, like on a personal level, just find some kind of like common ground, like is just, I think, so valuable because like people are just constantly tired of, getting those DMs of like, hey, I do this. And like, do you need my service? Like, no, like just
Yeah.
ask me how I'm doing first. Or,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I just feel like that could go such a long way, and I've really tried to, like, pivot from that because 'cause I've had people in the online space tell me, like, "No, like, you need to be, this, like, masculine energy of, like, just, push, push, push." I'm
Andy
like, "That's not
Elliott.
who I am." Like, people don't like that.
Yeah. No, on our last
So,
call, I remember you asked me about Grant Cardone, and I was like, I don't know what to say because I don't want to piss her off. But, I get what you're saying. And I think that, especially if we're talking about, so I come from like I've started my own small businesses and sold one, but most of my career has been in the professional B2B sales side. I think you said you worked at Allegiant, so you understand kind of that more corporate, how corporate sales are
yeah.
really, when you look at the best salespeople, it truly is relationship driven. It's not like you're walking onto the Honda lot at Tomwood and you're about
Yeah.
to have some 18-year-old hopped up on 4 Red Bulls trying to sell you a $30,000 car. It's,
Yeah.
how can we actually establish, my business partner gives me shit all the time because especially like if people, like if I see a CRO who's like a runner, like boom, you're getting a message like, hey, whatever, would love to have a coffee chat, and I always talk about coffee chats being a great way to establish a relationship. But the funny part about it is 90% of the times when I get on a coffee chat, you could just feel the energy that they're waiting for the pitch. And I'll sit there and I'll let that build up. And at about 10 minutes in, I'll be like, hey, by the way, like, I just want you to know I'm not going to pitch you anything today. Like, I really just want to get to know you as a human. And I would say probably 50% of the time, these meetings that are scheduled for 20 minutes end up going an hour or an hour and a half. And we're just talking, like, I had a meeting last week with the director of customer success at a startup in San Francisco. And we spent like an hour and a half talking about like behavioral psychology and like human evolution. And like at the end of the call, we were like, this is like one of the most fun like calls I've ever had in my career. We need to do this again. And like that's what it's about. It doesn't always have to be tangent to the service that you provide, because if you just show them that you're curious about them and you show them that you're just a relatable human being, like they'll go look at your website, they'll go look at the content you've put out and stuff. That let that do the talking for you. Now, like there's times where hey, if we're doing a coffee chat and you're like, I'm having this really big challenge in my business. Cause sometimes that happens too. Like, these coffee chats almost turn into a venting session for the person I'm meeting with, which is always great. And like, hey, I heard that you're dealing with this challenge of trying to prove ROI to your CEO and you can't get budget. I think I can help you with this, right? And here's what we can do. That's how you get a client. It's not so much the, you know, go to my landing page, fill out the form, and all that shit. So I love that you're kind of calling that out, because I think outside of the corporate space, sales can just be a very interesting thing. Everybody's got a little bit of a different view, but the whole like, I'm going to come into your life like a bull in a china shop, it just doesn't work in my opinion. I think that,
Yes.
to your point.
Yeah, but I think like that almost like coffee chat, like anytime like someone asks you to get on a call, like that almost is like a red flag too. Like people are getting like so burnt out of that too. And just like, I don't want to be pitched at, like, I'm not jumping on a
Yeah.
call with you. And I think it's, yeah, like being just like intentional in front, like I'm like literally just want to get to know you. Like I'm not here to pitch you on anything. And I think like people just aren't used to that. And so it like that helps you stand out too, of like, oh, this she actually like wanted to know about me as a person and not just what she can do for my business.
Yeah.
I think that goes with me too. Cause yeah, I mean, I honestly like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to get on a call with them. I know they're just going to pitch me and like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be pitched at either.
Yeah.
I think it's just trying to like connect first, and then let the other stuff happen organically.
Yeah. It's what
So,
I was going to say, my business partner gives me shit a lot of times because I do a great job at just connecting with people over sports, whether they're an athlete, whether they train or run or lift or whatever. Like when I meet those people, it's like Christmas Day for me, because I'm like, we're not even going to talk about like marketing and stuff. We're just going to like go off on this tangent about like this shared thing that like we love to do. And like there's several people I've met through coffee chats that are sales executives or, business leaders. And it's like we're texting each other on Monday mornings, like, got my run in today, got my 3 miles, like just building relationships like that. One day, and the way I like to think about it is if you build that relationship, you never really have to sell, because when the moment is right, you're the one that
mhm.
you built trust with them to, when I have this problem, you're who I'm going to come to. And I had a VP of go to market tell me this last week. And she's a very senior sales leader and has tons of experience. And like 10 minutes into our coffee chat, she's like, you better not pitch me. And I was like, I'm not. I was like, my promise is my promise. Like, and we ended up having a like almost a 2 hour call. And we were just talking about like the evolution of sales and like what's been wrong in sales, what's been wrong in go to market, like all these things that have like been patchwork but never really solved the last like 10 or 15 years. She goes, Garrath, like at the end of the call, she said something like, right now I basically run marketing and sales. She goes, we don't have an internal marketing team. She goes, who I'm going to hire when, who's going to be top of mind when I go to hire that outside help to help us ramp up our marketing. And I was like, well, selfishly, I hope it's us. It just goes to show like if you do things the right, I think there's this like outside incentive to where people feel like if I don't have $1 million business year one, I'm an utter failure. And part of that comes from you're working from the wrong incentives. Is that really something that would fulfill you? Right? Or is that something to try to impress other people? Like, look at me, I built this $1 million business. Cool. Is that going to be around in 5 years? Because like what I saw during COVID was like, especially more in the like corporate go to market space, so many of these agencies pop up. People bragging about
Mhm.
we've done 7 figures, we've done 8 figures. And a lot of those people are back in a job now because it's like you didn't build real
For
relationships
sure.
with your clients that would stick. You're building champions. And we talked about this on our last call that we had of I would love to hear your perspective on this. Like when it comes to relationships, especially as a small consulting firm like us, where I hate to use the word boutique, but that's what I'm going to use here. Uh, we do a lot of higher ticket work. So we're not working with, 30, 40, 50 clients in a year. It's probably closer to 10 or 15. And through that, though, it allows us to be really embedded with those clients where I think where was I going to go with this? I think that so much of the going back to saying that like so much of the incentives are to kind of like look like the business is like bigger than it is and more, you miss out on this like real story that you have in your life of like we were nitty gritty and dirty and like we had to really fight tooth and nail to get this going, and here's our journey, and here people respect that so much more when there's a real story behind, like that's so much more relatable. Like we got drugged through the mud. We took on some clients that we never should have taken on. We did free work that people didn't appreciate, things like this. That is like a real story that truly builds your business acumen. But I think, you know, the incentives have been skewed to kind of look the part versus being the part. And when you take it slow, the thing I've realized is when you slow things down and you're more methodical, yeah, you don't hit $1 million in 12 months, maybe not even 24, but guess what? Guess where you're going to be in 5 years or 7 years when you're doing three, four, $5 million a year consistently with the right kind of clients that want you in their business, and you're not going through this revolving door. That's when you have a real business. Like to your point, being in business for 4 years, most people never even make it there. So you're already in like the top 1% of entrepreneurs who, 90% of businesses, you hear that statistic that 90% of businesses fail in the first year. I don't believe that at all, because I think what happens is people quit when it gets really hard and they realize like this isn't a lifestyle. This is like an actual way of being. Like this isn't just like, the vacations don't pay for themselves, the credit cards don't pay for them, none of that stuff. When that wanes and there's no longer that like appeal to it, that's when most people quit. But as you get to that 18-month point, that 24-month point, that's when everything, if you're doing things the right way, that's when it starts to really take off. And you'll still go through
Mm.
these ups and downs, these peaks and valleys, but they start to kind of flatten out a little bit as you go. And now you have a business, and now you can be mom, now you can be dad, now you can go on the vacation and take a deep breath and actually enjoy it. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of just saying like I fully hear you on that, because I just think entrepreneurship during COVID got bastardized a little bit. Of people were sold visions of grandeur. And it's like, no, this is, if you thought working your 40-hour-a-week job sucked, wait until you get into this first 18 months.
Yeah, and I think like no one tells you that. Like there have been times like I wanted to quit, sure, but like my why is just so important to me, and like that's at the end of the day, like whatever your why is or whatever motivates you, like if that's not strong enough to like keep you going, like yes, you will quit, your business will fail, because no one tells you like when you like start your business like how hard it truly is.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
you're in corporate, like I mean your job's not necessarily guaranteed, but like there is a sense of like with that, right? And so like whenever you're everything, like it is a pressure that like you can't explain to someone else. And like no one told me how hard it was going to be like when I started my own thing, and I'm just like, knowing what I know now, I don't know that I would have had the courage to actually leave
Yeah.
my job back then, because like it has been a ride, but I mean it's totally been worth it, but no one tells you, yeah, how hard it truly is to have your own
Yeah.
business. But to like kind of piggyback off like what you were saying is that again, yeah, like people just want to connect with a human. And yes, my business isn't, $1 million plus, but like I also am like truly invested in my clients. I get to know them on a personal level. Like when you're sending pictures of like your kids, T-ball game, or, asking
Yeah.
how their first day of kindergarten went, right? Like, that to me means so much more than making, $1 million. Like I am truly, like, I feel like I truly matter to my clients and they truly matter to me. And like, to me, that is more valuable than making,
Yeah.
X dollars. Like to me, I think that's so cool. I'd rather have 5 clients than 50, because I know like that I truly care about them, and they care about me. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with what you were saying about
Yeah.
that.
And
Like
when you approach people like they're, like dollar signs above a pack of meat at the meat market, like they feel that. They see that. There's no amount of like Andy Elliott, Grant Cardone schmoozing that's going to get you through, most people. And, you see the entrepreneurs who, in whatever field, you see the entrepreneurs who There's all they care about is the money. All they care about is the lifestyle. And there's just like no soul to them. There's no real soul to them. There's no real presence to them. It just feels empty when you're around those kind of people. And because it's all just like, at the end of the day, everything they talk about, everything they do, it's really to serve themselves and whatever lifestyle they're trying to live. And like you said, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so fun. Even like, the president of that company that, we didn't close a deal with, they had a lot of things turn over. It's like now we're like, he's sending me a picture of his son in the emergency room with a high ankle sprain, all those things. And it's like, that's what it's really about, because at the end of the day, like, hey, he leaves that company in 5 years or whatever. And he's like, hey, you know what? Like, we need to build this out at this it's like those opportunities will come, those opportunities will come. And it's interesting because I feel like the less you press as an entrepreneur, the more those things come to you. The biggest mistake I ever made was like when I had my e-commerce businesses, I used to work stupid hours. Like there was no, I look back on it and I'm like, I was so stupid. And I remember like I'm at a warehouse with my friend one day who owns a very large e-commerce company. It's a direct competitor to Yeti. And um, actually, I'll say it because it's a really cool story because he's from here in Indianapolis, but he owns Brewmate. And
No way.
yeah. So I remember
Here.
that's awesome. I'm going to send him a clip of this. But so
This is not sponsored.
before it was ever Brewmate, it was called something else. And, there were some like naming rights issues. Some company that created like foggers for concerts, like there were some issues with the naming rights. So like, that's where he came up with Brewmate. But we're at his warehouse one day and, I'm helping him fill all of these orders, probably 300 or 400 orders for, the wine bottle when it very first came out, the metal wine bottle. And we like wrap up like 4 hours into it and he's like, all right, that's it. He's like, all right, dude, I'll see you. I was like, that's it. That's that's it for the day. Like just 3 or 4 hours and you're out and you're back to doing whatever you want. And this was in like a high growth phase for his company. And I just remember thinking like, what am I doing? I'm working like 10 or 12 hours a day and I'm not getting anywhere close to this kind of success. And so, I really started to kind of look at like, there's days where you have to work, those 12 hours, like tonight is going to be like a 10 or 11 p.m. kind of night because I'm doing like a full CRM migration for a client in 2 weeks because it's like fire drill for them, which is fine. I actually kind of love that because she's super awesome. Actually, I would love to connect you two. I feel like you guys would be like two peas in a pod a little bit, but super awesome client. And those are the people you want to work with because then when it comes to a long night like this, it's like you can really enjoy the work knowing that the person you're doing it for appreciates it.
Yeah.
But there's also like this morning was interesting because I didn't have any meetings until noon and I wanted to wake up and get like right to it. And for like the last month and I would love to hear how this has evolved for you. The last month between baseball and like we've just been like swarmed with client work this month, like coming out of nowhere. And so like my bandwidth has just been like compressed down to nothing, like mental bandwidth. Like usually in these times I would wake up on a day like today and I would just get at it, and then it'd be 10 o'clock and I'd be like pissed off I didn't get to the gym yet. Today was one of those days I just kind of woke up and I was like, dude, just take it slow. Just take it slow. Just ease into the day, enjoy the morning, make a long night out of it, but just like spend the 3 or 4 hours for yourself to just like not feel like you're getting away or drifting away from those anchors that like keep you mentally and like physically in the game the right way. Like how has that evolved for you? Because I feel like everybody has to figure that no matter how many coaches or whatever you might have, everybody has to figure that out for themselves on their own of like, how do I maintain my energy and my stamina and my presence? And like, also at the same time, I've got a family and I've got a wife and I've got a son and like all these things. By the way, I've got like 15 8-year-olds that are counting on me 5 days a week, so it's like, how has that evolved for you? I know we talked a little bit about like, I started off a little bit in that Grant Cardone culture when I was in, really new to entrepreneurship. You got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to do all these things. And that is part of it. But like, you also want to be able to sustain yourself like mentally and physically and ultimately like spiritually too.
Yes. I definitely was in that culture and like experience like the burnout I experienced was like no other. I was
Yeah.
like, I am miserable. Like is not who I am. Like this is not what I want to be.
Yeah.
Funny, like I actually have been enjoying like slow mornings myself this week.
Yeah.
Now that school is back in session and we are experiencing a new routine. And it's funny, like people ask so many times, like, how do you have that like family life balance, like with, your job and your kids and everything? And like, I don't really think that's a thing.
Yeah. It's not.
I believe like in intention and seasonality. Like some weeks, yes, I am, running calls, making, really focused in my business and, trying to like grow things. But then like other weeks, like this past week, like I'm in full like mom mode and things are quiet and it's just kind of learning to be okay with both. And like what keeps me grounded is just like having boundaries and like system
Yeah.
and just redefining what enough looks like to you. It looks like something totally different to everyone, but like I don't chase every opportunity. I want to be all in and fully on like where it matters. Like I don't want to give 110% if the person on the other end is only giving 5. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that like we're both in it. Um, and some days, yeah, it's client calls and meetings after meetings, but then other days it's like I have a kid on my hip, we're watching Paw Patrol in the background. Like honestly, like
Yeah.
it's just like trying to like be present in whatever season you're in and knowing that like the next season is coming and just trying to like be okay with that.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I love when, it's interesting because being in my 30s now, most people are like they're slowing way down. Like it's almost like I don't know. It's been a really interesting year for me in the sense that like I'm seeing so many friends just like slow down in life. And there's two parts to the business. There's the like I want to do something that's fulfilling, and then I want to own my financial future at the same time. And like we're not talking like we're going to go be billionaires. It's just like, hey, in 5 or 10 years, we'd like to buy the custom home on 10 acres with a pole barn and a porch that wraps around and like go on vacation anywhere we want, anytime we want, and not have to think about it. Whatever that is for anybody else, right? And like for me, I'm not very materialistically driven. I would, not to sound cheesy, I would say I'm more legacy driven and that like I want to leave something behind, whether it's multiple companies, whether it's one company that will feed my family for hopefully another 2 or 3 generations. But, there is no balance to all of this. And it's funny because, like you said earlier, you wake up every day. It's almost like you almost seem like a weirdo to people. They're like, why the fuck are you in such a great mood every day? Like, the fuck is this? Like, what do you want? But it's really just like, even though, like, we don't make $1 million a month right now or anything, but when you just truly love what you do, you could sink your teeth into it. It allows you to like be focused on the things that really matter and trust that the process plays out. And, I think a lot of people look at it and it's like this negative connotation of like, I don't want to worry about all that, or like, life's not all about money. So many people think people get into business just for money. And it's like, no, 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 you don't understand. There's so many layers deep for each individual. And I would say like a lot of my friends think I'm working like 80 hours, 100 hours a week, which doesn't happen, at least nowadays. Like it just doesn't happen. But it's like, I'm not afraid to either because like, it's like, this is meaningful. This is impactful for my family. Really, I think it's just having all out ownership. For me, like in my corporate career, it was like, or let me take a step back. Like earlier this year, like last December, I remember like, you know, every year you have that conversation with your friends. I'm going to do this year. I'm going to do this year. And like, it was the first time I just reached out to, um, I just reached out to a friend of mine. I was like, hey, listen, I need you to be my new nutrition coach this year. Like, I've got the working out and all that stuff down. That's been my daily routine for 15 years. I want to get my diet dialed in to where like the body matches the intensity and the mindset and all that stuff behind it. I remember like looking at, and I feel like you'll be able to relate with this story. And I remember like January, handful of friends, like, this is going to be the year, this is going to be the year, right? And I just told Olivia, I'm like, I'm not going to say anything to these guys for like 3 or 4 months. We'll see who's like still all in. It's like May's around, you're catching up with people, and dude, I got to get started again, And I was talking to this one friend, and he's a close friend. And if he watches this, I'm sorry. I love you, dude. But, there was like a Friday and I'm texting or we're on the phone. He's like, yeah, I'm like meal prepping now, stuff like that. And then Sunday, they're like out on the boat getting hammered, out at the beach and stuff. And I'm just like, dude, like, I think so much of entrepreneurship gives you the ability to say, I'm going to lock in for like 3 years here. I truly, like, for my family, I want to take them on the vacations. I truly don't care about like going on vacations right now, all that stuff, all the glitz and glamour that entrepreneurs dream of. It's like, if you can just get yourself in a headspace where like, I'm just going to be fully locked in for like 2 or 3 years. I'm not saying you don't take vacations and don't take time off. Like, we're kid free this weekend. We are totally chilling like nobody's business, right? I might get a bottle of wine, hang out on the deck, all that stuff. People are like afraid to lock in. And I think it's like, if you look at 3 years, it's like what, 5% of your life that you're choosing to say, hey, we're going to put all this other shit aside because we want to grow as people. We want to evolve as people. We want to evolve as a mom or a dad, a husband, a wife. We want to evolve as professionals and really actually, like, you know, when you were 21, 22, you're getting out of college, you're like, who can I actually become in 20 years? And it's like taking a 3 year piece of your life and saying, I'm going all in on setting the foundation for becoming that best version of myself. And through this like process for me, I'd love to hear how this has gone for you. And just going through that process, the first 6 months, when I look back to like 2020, mid 2023, it was like I felt very lonely for like 8 months because my friends were texting me about politics I'm just like, I have nothing to add here. Like, I don't want to be in this conversation. You start to like, you slowly start to weed out all this shit where you're like, I have like this fucking like really important thing I'm trying to do, and I just don't have the mental energy to even engage with all this dumb shit anymore. Right? And you're like, I just want more people in my life that think like me, that like understand like how important this is to me. And eventually those people start coming into your life and you form a little bit of a tribe. And you're like, I don't know any of these people, but I feel like I've known them my entire life. And then what you find is you actually end up inspiring other people to take their chances and to take their risks. And I would love to hear, like, how has that worked out for you? And then on top of that, the resistance you get in the beginning of, oh, you're leaving your job and you're going to go start a business. And like, and at first, like, nobody directly says it to you that they're doubting you. You feel the energy. It's in the questions that people ask. It's how they ask the question. It's all that shit, right? It's like, oh, okay, I got you. You're going on the whiteboard. I literally have people's names on a whiteboard. And like, okay, that's a little cheesy, but like, how has that process been for you? Have you found your tribe? Have you, like, how is like your friendships and relationships evolved to where it's like, I'm not available to you for all these things. How do I say it? It's important.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's important, and you engage with it when you have the comfortable job and you have and like you're just getting off work and you're like, I don't have like this important thing that drives me all day. It's like, so yeah, I got time to talk
Yeah.
about like, all this dumb shit. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to say it.
No, and I think that's something else people don't tell you about when you do start your own business and you go against,
Yeah.
like you go against what everyone else is doing, is like how lonely it is. And like no one understands because like they're still in the corporate life and they like think you're crazy, like you're not going to make it. Like, why would you do that? Like people are tell you all kinds of things. And like honestly, like I'm still trying to work on that and to build my tribe because it truly does affect you. I mean, my husband is obviously like way more supportive now
Yeah.
than he was in the beginning. And my family still asks, like, what do you do? Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, how do you do anything? Like, what do you do all day? And like my friends, it's still, like I can't really talk to them about, my job or like what I go through. And so that's why I like love, meeting other people online because like they get it. They
Yeah.
understand, like they're going through it too. And it's not until you are going through it that you will truly understand. But it definitely helps being surrounded by those people because otherwise, like, yeah, you don't know who to, like, you can't talk to anyone really. And then that just like, I don't know, when I get lonely or like feel like I
Yeah.
can't talk to someone like that, just like it kind of takes my mind off like, okay, maybe I shouldn't. It kind of fills your head with doubt, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I can't make this work. Like, what am I thinking? Like all those like negative thoughts start popping in your head. And it's like, no, like I
Yeah.
am here 4 years. I have a successful business. Like,
Yeah.
no, like,
Yeah.
and so it's just like getting those people to like constantly like build you up versus just like those little comments that they don't probably mean to like tear you down necessarily or intentionally, but like it still does. And it's just trying to like cut out that noise. And yes, like the first couple years when I was doing both, like my corporate life and my business, like yes, I went through a lot of like sacrificing a lot. Like I didn't see
Yeah.
anyone, like we didn't do anything. Like I had to work. I had to build something. And I don't even think I told anyone
Yeah.
for a little while that like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And like I left my corporate job. Like I didn't tell anyone until I fully kind of made the move and like was really, starting to see success with it because like I was afraid that I was going to get judged and people would think I'm crazy and like I wanted to be able to make my own decision and take that risk, but like if I knew if people were constantly telling me like what you would leave your high paying job that you worked so hard, all this stuff, like I never would have been able to do it. And so
Yeah.
I think finding those people who are in the same situation as you and are really there to like support you is game changing for your business because otherwise like it's so easy to let
Yeah.
the negative thoughts and negative comments to get in your head for
Yeah.
sure.
It's funny because I think most people are so, because when you start a business or you take those kind of risks, like there's a moment in time, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, where like you don't have the money to like when I had my corporate job, we don't really eat out a lot, but when we would eat out, we'd go to like nice places and like we're not like Instagram and Facebook people. Like we keep our lives very private, but we'd go out to Ruth's Chris, we'd go out to St. Elmo's and like stuff like that. We don't eat out often. Our like philosophy is like instead of going to like Texas Roadhouse 10 times in 1 month or 5 times in 1 month, we just go to like Ruth's Chris once or something, right? Now that our son is 7, we go to Texas Roadhouse way, 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 way more. So they've got their claws in him for sure. But when you're not keeping up with the Joneses and you're making those sacrifices and life doesn't look as sexy, life doesn't look as like, glamorous. People get this connotation that like, oh, they must be struggling, stuff like that. And it's like, we've definitely struggled. And whatever you may think of that though, like the return on this struggle is 100x whatever it would have been in my corporate career. And for me, it's like part of why I do what I do is because she's kind of in a similar position where like she's kind of burned out on her job. And so I just want to have the money to be like, yo, come home one day, fucking get on the phone, tell them you're leaving, you're not coming back. They're gonna have to hire somebody. Like, and I want to be able to like give her that and also take my family wherever we want to go and travel and do those things. But there's sacrifice involved with that. And you look at it and it's like, okay, is the sacrifice, because like when I had my corporate job, I was more miserable than I'd ever been. But yet, we were going out to Joshua Tree, Arizona, Sedona, in Colorado and all these freaking places, but I wasn't like fulfilled. It all felt meaningless to me because I was just like, this is like, I'm rewarded, my family's enjoying these rewards, but like, for me, it's like, I know I'm not doing what I really want to be doing. And I
Yeah.
just got to a point where I was like super freaking depressed. Like the Sunday scaries that you mentioned, I had those, but in like the most intense form of like just anxiety of like, oh my God, I'm just sitting on the couch on a Sunday night, no phone or anything, just sitting there thinking like, I got to get out of this shit, you know? For me, it all came to a head. Like I had my computer open, getting ready to email my boss back. And I worked for an all European company. So this was like emailing the Gestapo, to be honest with you. Like, I just sat here for like 30 minutes and I literally, like, I couldn't even type a full sentence. I was just like, and I just walked out there and I was like, listen, I'm doing it today. Like, I'm putting my 2 weeks in, I'm done. I literally cannot wake up and feel like this one more day. Like, I just can't do it. And, doing that, it was funny because when I made that decision, I literally just felt like the weight of the world come off my shoulders. And, I saved up all my money for 3 years, all our extra money. We saved it up to make this move happen. And there's a lot of things we learned along the way. Like I said, we didn't make a ton of money year one because there was actually a lot of internal things like mentally that I had to overcome. Like, it's not that I didn't know how to sell. It's just that like I was in the wrong mental headspace to even be building relationships and selling. I was just like a shell of myself from like 5 or 6 years previously. And I had to get back to where it's like, because I was always the type of person I could walk into a like meeting room with 10,000 people and I'm shaking hands, I'm making jokes, I'm meeting people, having a good time. And then like I got to this like shell of myself of like, I'm not that person anymore. What the fuck's going on here? Like, this isn't me. And so I had to work, luckily saved up that money and stuff and like had the time to kind of like not feel like I had to speed run the business. I can almost take like 6 months and just kind of like get back to homeostasis. And
Yeah.
I remember getting to a point, there's points where I was about to quit too in the process of, I don't think this is going to work. And I just kept telling myself 30 more days, 90 more days. And like last November, I felt like that, like this just isn't working. And then, Sebastian and I just got really close, became like brothers. And I just approached him in February, like, listen, I know you got a lot going on, but like, should we partner? He's like, oh, I've been thinking about it too. And so we merged our companies and started a new company. And that took like 30 or 45 days to really get everything, rounded out together. And it's like 4 months later. And, the first 60, 90 days with this, it's like all in on relationship building. Like, I mean, like so many conversations and this, that, and the other. It's like now all the fruits of that are like happening. And it's like, man, like I look back now and I'm like, God, like I'd be so mad right now knowing what I know if I would have quit last year when like the money really wasn't there, the opportunities weren't really there. I didn't have a network of people I could really rely on. But knowing what I know now, it's like, God, I would not go back if you couldn't even pay me a $500,000 salary right now to get me to take a W-2 like role. So it's funny.
It's
Like,
a long game for sure.
it is. It is. But here's the thing too. You have an asset. Like if you look at it the long game, if you're around in 10, 20 years, you're probably going to have 20, 30, 40, 50 employees. And now when you get to retire, you actually have an asset you can sell. So not only, are you going to be making, it's once you do these things the right way the first 3 to 5 years, the idea of making $1 million or $2 million a year take home becomes very feasible because you understand like what it's going to take to get there. And it's not all about gamifying shit. It's just you're doing the things that don't scale that actually allow that to happen. And it's like, oh, hey, by the way, my business does 5 million a year in revenue, and I could sell that for 10 million when I go to retire, right? And it's like, but you hear like I've got one of those buddies that is like he wants to work the American system to the T, have the high paying job, put the X amount in the 401k, like the X amount in this, the X amount in that, and just like ride the system. And I'm like, dude, I'm like the complete opposite of that. Of like, there's no way. There's like all the spice of life. At least like, you can go to your deathbed knowing I took that chance. And the worst thing that comes out of this is you have the right kind of people in your life, you have a better network, and you have more opportunities on the table for yourself because of the skills that you did develop. And that's the part that I think a lot of people don't look at. It's an investment in yourself just as much as it is a risk in trying to go make that money for yourself.
For sure.
What?
Yeah. I've gotten to do things that I never thought. If you would have asked me 5 years from now, I'd be like, you are crazy. And like the
Yeah.
amount of people I've gotten to meet and like the connections I built, like, it's crazy. And like, obviously no one can predict that, but like, it's so cool. And I know if I was still in corporate, I would just be so miserable right
Yeah.
now and would be missing out on so much in my family life. And so, yeah,
What would be your
could never.
Yeah, no, I mean, just having that family time back, knowing I can shift my work around to this, or I can shift priorities to like go do this as a family.
Mhm.
So as we wrap this up, what is your advice? What are some tips you have for, people in that corporate life? And like I said, you came from a company like Allegion, which is like a global player, like a very big company, very well known, that might be in that same position where it's like I want to make this leap, but I'm thinking too much about like we got to have X amount of retirement and this, that, and like getting your head out of that headspace and just thinking about like doing this for you.
Yeah, no, that's good. I would say, honestly, like, just wherever you can find it, like, just find the courage to take that leap, because like, you would be so surprised at where it can take you. And if it doesn't work out, I mean, like, you could always go back. Like, corporate's not going anywhere, but like, I feel like not taking that risk is worse than just staying in your like mundane life. Like, you have no idea the opportunities or the connections or the things you're going to get to do, because like, you're stuck in the corporate space. So I would say just do it.
Yeah.
You definitely will not regret it, for sure.
Yeah. All right, Jenna. It was seriously great chatting with you. Where can people find you? I'll drop your website link in the show notes and stuff. But where can people find you? LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah. So Instagram, LinkedIn, I'm at JWorks Virtual Solutions. I like am definitely that's where I share the most. But I have my own podcast and offer one-on-one consulting for people who are ready to grow without the chaos. So just hit me up, and I can't wait to talk to you.
And I hope people get a lot of value out of this lesson, out of this podcast, and look forward to staying in touch. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Gareth.
Yep. Later.